Ghosty fam, Amy here. Welcome to The Activity Continues, a podcast where three soul friends talk about all things paranormal. Ghosts, hauntings, psychics, movies and TV shows, especially The Dead Files, and other spooky and spooky adjacent things. We also like to interview people in the paranormal community, as well as past Dead Files clients and other interesting people. Sometimes we even tell your stories. I hope you enjoy the show.
Hello. Welcome back.
Thanks for joining us again. Yeah. This week, we discussed the Dead Files episode Madhouse, which originally aired July 18th, 2015. It's season 5, episode 11 on Max anyway. Mm-hmm. Megan, do you want to tell the people why you chose this episode?
Because, I was looking for one and I saw that it was in a theater, and I normally don't do businesses, but I thought a theater has got to be pretty spooky. Mm-hmm. And so I did it. And the title stuck out to me too.
Madhouse.
So
yeah.
Madhouse. Yeah.
And
a little bit of content warnings in this one. Murder, racism, suicide was talked about, dying by suicide.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The usual that I missed.
Nothing crazy.
Yeah. I mean, usual.
I do want to shout out to all the folks who filled out our survey and say thank you, that you are the reason.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, we love the feedback, and you are the reason that we are doing these every week now, and we hope that we can continue that.
Sin.
I was reading the comments. One of the questions is, what other podcasts do you listen to? And someone said Radio Rental. Have you listened to that one?
No, I've never even heard of it.
It's so good. It's so, I swear we've talked about it before.
You
but
probably
anyway,
did. And I forget.
It's Rainn Wilson, from The Office.
Okay. From
The
Office,
He plays a character called Terry Carnation, and he runs a video rental store. Okay. And so every episode is him pulling a tape off and playing a tape. But what it really is a listener or a regular person telling their story, their creepy story. It's kind of like Let's Not Meet. Do you remember that podcast? Oh, you haven't heard that one either? Okay. That's also where...
Beautiful Anonymous, but scary instead of sweet.
Yeah. Well, a Beautiful Anonymous, though, is like an interview. Like the person is talking to Chris. This is just a recording of somebody saying, here's my scary story. I went to the store and did that, blah, 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 blah. They're not being interviewed.
Okay.
But the Terry Carnation part is like kind of the funny fictional part. Anyway, it's a really good show. Recommendation.
Okay. Yeah.
Radio Rental. On all your podcast apps. So, all right. Well, I guess it's time for you guys to hear the show. So we hope you enjoy it. So, welcome back, everybody. As mentioned, we are to the place. I can't remember how that goes. Welcome back, Cotter. Is that what you were singing?
No, I was just singing Welcome Back. I've never seen Welcome Back, Cotter.
You haven't? That's John Travolta as Vinnie Barbarino.
I don't know. Is that the one with Jamie Lee Curtis where there's that really uncomfortable aerobics class where they're basically eye fucking each other?
No, that is much later, and that's a movie. Welcome Back, Kotter is a TV series that was on before John Travolta was even famous, and they were high school kids.
Oh.
He wasn't, of course, a high school kid. He was in his 30s.
Of course.
Just like Grease 2
Glee.
also, and Grease 2. But School Spirits... Amy and I were talking about School Spirits because I finished it today and she finished it a couple days ago.
God damn it, I keep forgetting
got to get back into it. Oh my
God.
Okay. But anyway.
All right.
I was like, so she and I were messaging each other and I said, now we have to wait like a year for another season and I'm really pissed about it. She goes, it might even be longer, except that the cast, they're playing high school kids, but they're all in their 20s and 30s. Mm-hmm. Which I didn't realize.
They usually do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they can't. I wouldn't expect them to be 15, 16. But, because then that's child labor laws and all that. But But it is amazing that like Rhonda, I think she's like 32. Yeah.
She does not look 32.
No, she doesn't. None of them look as old as they are. Okay. They're all in their late 20s, early 30s.
Yeah. I need to get back into that.
It's so good. I know you got stopped a little because of Nicole not believing Simon.
She was kind of rubbing me the wrong way.
Yeah. She did me too, but you get over it. It just like in another episode, it comes back. She gets her shit together. Okay. So it's good.
Good.
Anyway, that's our first sidetrack of the evening. So
2 minutes in, we made it.
Yeah. Yeah. So this was Madhouse is the episode. Megan chose it. And here she is with the overview. Take it away, Megan.
Alrighty. Kimberly bought the movie theater in 2011. She bought it to save it for the town. However, her good deed is not going unpunished as, ever since taking it over, strange occurrences have been happening to everyone involved in the theater. Kimberly and her father will hear banging, they will be touched, her father was grabbed, another employee was pinched, and there's really just all-around feelings of anxiety and being watched by everybody within the theater. Kimberly's biggest concern, however, isn't herself, but her father. He helps her out with the theater, and she feels like he is being targeted by whatever entities are in there. She's worried about what this could do to him, and she fears for his safety. During his investigation, Steve uncovers 3 murders, with one remaining unsolved to this day. There is also a love triangle and a murder that resulted from opioid use. Can this movie theater be saved? Can the spirits be put to rest? Or have the spirits claim this location for their own? Stay tuned to find out if the activity continues.
Very nice. Thank you. I was listening. I could still hear.
It's okay.
I just I realized I didn't start my no Tech Goblins Stick. So.
Got it. So yeah, I honestly, when I told Amy that I chose this, she was like, "Oh, it's a location."
I go,
normally I don't.
Look at you doing a business.
I know. I usually do houses. I don't usually do.
She doesn't really like the businesses as much.
I don't. But this one jumped out at me. I'm like, it's a theater. That's got to be spooky ooky.
Yeah. And I thought at first, I'm like, shit, did we do this one? Because I know we did do a small theater once before.
Yeah.
But that was in LA, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yes, because then it was, I remember that one. That was a good one.
It was a good one. This was a good one, too.
It was a good
choice.
one. Yeah. Thank you. A lot of thought went into it. Okay. So we start out in Marshall, Missouri. 90 miles east of Kansas City. If you live in Missouri, I'm so sorry for what
Isn't that how they say it?
I don't know.
Missouri?
They're able to say it way better than I ever could. So Steve's doing his little overview, and he's like, she said if we can't help her, she might have to walk away and shut the doors.
Mm-hmm. No pressure, though.
Right. Add that to our bingo card, Steve. Maybe calm down. Okay? Yeah. And after we talk to Kimberly, she does not give the impression that she said that. I have a feeling that they might have inferred that.
I think that the writers or producers or whoever makes those choices puts that in every episode.
Yeah. It's really
whether it's
much.
The deal or not.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay, maybe calm down, writers.
Yeah.
So then we go to Mark. Who's Mark? Oh. Then we go to Matt. Then he's clearing it away. And so remember, it says, he goes, I can't hide that this is a movie theater, but I can still cover up anything that might distract her.
Yeah, I like how he said that might distract her as opposed to any leading information. Like when he says any leading information, which is fine and that makes sense for sure. We know that they mean we don't want to have a picture of the family because we don't want her to know who lives here or whatever.
Yep.
But the way that he said anything that might distract her made me think of the video that they put out there, like a outtakes video that they put out there of Amy walking up to someone's house, and she's just opened up and she's walking over to the house, and she sees a kitty, and she's doing all her mystical Amy shit, and then she goes, oh, kitty, because she can't not freak out when she sees a kitty, right? And so she's like, oh, it's my kitty. Animals. And it made me think I remember, who was it that one of the first people that we interviewed, might have been Lance and Jennifer, were talking about how they had to pull decals off the windows and off the walls because they were cutesy, and everybody thought Amy would get distracted by them and then just be like, oh, pretty, cutie,
Yeah.
So it's not just that we're giving her leading information. It's that she can literally get distracted pretty easily. Yeah. And then, I was thinking about this, what if I saw him taking down movie posters, and I thought, what if she were to walk in and be like, oh my God, Seven, I love that movie. And then have the thought of a murderer that did that, So
Gluttonous, yeah.
yeah, I thought it was interesting. This is, I think, the first time that I've thought of it being just a distraction and not just a leading to the story kind of a thing. So I just thought that
that makes sense.
That was interesting.
Yeah, I can relate to being distracted too.
Ugh, of course, me too.
Shocking, I know. Everybody pick your jaws up off the floor after that revelation. Sorry. So then Amy shows up and she said there's a lot of dead people. She hears the word Madhouse. And she said there's a lot of competition between the dead. So they're like competing for attention. And I'm like, yikes, that does not sound good. She's hearing this is where the dead throw down. And I'm just picturing WWE, like John Cena, like you can't see this. And it's like, no, John. So then we go to Kim and Steve, and they're interviewing, and she purchased the theater, 4 years ago. They purchased it because there was an ad in the paper that it was going to be shut down, and she wanted to keep it alive, so they had a movie theater. And that's essentially why she bought it. And so she grew up in Marshall. She came to the movie theater as a child. She raised her kids here, and Steve's like, but why you got to be the responsible one? And I'm like, well, because she bought it. Like,
I think he meant, why do you have to be the one to save it? Why did you buy it? Why did it have to be your problem?
I mean, I get
know,
it, but I'm like,
it was a weird thing, I thought,
Steve.
for him to say it that way.
Yeah. Steve asked some silly questions. Also, if you're drinking during this, if you're drinking during watching the episode, you could take a drink anytime Steve says the word wow.
Yeah.
You might die. You will die because he says it 4,000 times.
Yeah.
But there's an option for you if you want,
If you really want to get shit-faced while using... I don't have that on a bingo card, but I'll put it on.
Or drink water and stay hydrated, everybody.
There you go. That would be good for you.
Hydrate those kidneys.
That would be good for you.
Just keep it flowing.
That's right.
Keep your bladder going, is what is my motto. It's never been my motto.
Why start now?
Who needs a motto? What's the motto with you? I'm sorry, it had to be said. Okay, so then we get into Steve asks what everybody's saying, and noises that can't be explained, laughter, things being moved, people being touched. And then she says voice mimicry, and we all know how Megan feels about mimics, and that would be it for me. And then people have seen shadow figures, and I'm like, you lost me at mimicry.
Would there be a Megan-shaped hole in the
There
wall?
would be a Megan-shaped hole in the wall.
That's what I thought.
Yes, there would be a Megan-shaped hole in the wall. And they'd be like, where'd Megan go? Like, I don't know. Follow the hole. And the smell of shit, because I pooped my pants.
Yeah, because she would have shit her pants too. Yeah.
Yeah. So knock those two off your bingo cards. Yeah. So there's 15 people that are on staff, and she said a lot of these are her family, and she actually has a picture of her son Damon, who's 22, her daughter, and her dad. But the only people we interview are her and her dad, and then a current employee. And so she's afraid for, what's happening. She wants her staff to feel safe. She wants people to feel safe. And, she just generally wants like the theater to be a good place to go to. And I don't know if the people coming to the theater have had experiences. I don't think she really touched on it.
I don't think she did. I don't recall that.
But she's just really concerned about her staff and her family.
Yeah. I did note that she was wearing a big cross around her neck. And I, like the last episode that we did, there were crosses all over the walls. And I wondered if those were because they are a religious family or if they put them up because stuff was going on. I kind of family, same about her.
I did too.
She didn't say anything about being super religious. Say something
usually they do.
About it.
And I prayed to God, and I want the demon out.
Exorcist. Yeah. So I'm not sure what the deal is with that, but I do notice that people that are super religious are the ones that have issues like this. It tends to be, and that they always think it's demons.
They always think it's
think it's demons because that's where you go if that's what you're raised with.
Right. So then we're back to Amy, and she's like, there's a lot of people here. And Matt goes, how many? And Amy says, I feel like I'm at the whole town.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's fair, Amy.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a huge town, but if they're all in one place, that's especially when you're considering everybody who's died there.
Right. And then Steve's like, did you know anybody who died here? And Amy's like, nope, they've all lived. Just kidding. Steve didn't ask that.
There can't be any ghosts because everyone's still alive.
Everyone's already alive.
They are
Nobody's
vampires,
ever died.
however.
Yeah. And then Amy says a lot of the dead people here can like go in your body. They get jumped. And then, yeah, I know. And then Amy says people get really depressed, violently ill. And then she's looking into the basement and she goes, oh my God. And Matt said, what? And she said, I don't think it's going to be good down there because like all the fucking people. And she goes, I hope I'm wrong.
Nope. Amy, you're never wrong.
You're never wrong.
No. We all know you're not wrong.
No, just don't doubt yourself, Amy. Believe in yourself.
Believe in yourself.
And then we're back to Steve. And so why'd you bring me down here? And it's like, well, it's a basement. They're all creepy. But Kimberly says, I feel a sense of unease when she's down here, anxiety like she's being watched, and nobody wants to come down here, to be honest. And they also hear noises like somebody's like banging around on things. And Steve's like, you got pipes, you got wood walls, you got concrete floors. And I'm like, you just described what makes up a house or a building. So if this doesn't pan out, Steve, carpentry might be in your future. But I will say that was my first thought, too, especially if this,
Old
once
place.
we get into the history, this building is
Very
fucking old.
Yeah.
And, it's going to have a lot of noises that, modern ones might not say. But then Kimberly says it's not the clanking you would hear with the furnace shutting off. It's almost like it wants to get my attention. Which, if AP was here, she would say, well, that's personifying sounds.
Yeah. Which I suppose it could be, but I think I know what she means by that. Like when someone's knocking on your door and they go bump, 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 and it's a human doing that, you know that is a different cadence and a different feeling than your pipes knocking.
Yes, yes. And so Steve's like, are you sure it's not coming from a staff member? And she said, whenever there are noises, she's alone in the building. And then Steve goes, wow, what do you think is here? And she goes, that's what I'm hoping to find out. And I'm like, well, at least she didn't say a demon or something evil.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, she is very open-minded.
Yeah, she is. I really liked all of them. I liked all of them. Everybody they spoke to, I liked. I thought they were all really cool. So clients, if you're out there and you'd like to come on the show and tell us your side of the story, we'd love to hear it.
We'd love to hear it.
Give us a call.
Until the end. And then Amy Allen's like, I don't think the living have good experiences down here. There's a lot of hustle, a lot of bustle. So it feels like, there's like I don't want to say portal, but it seems like lots going, like people coming and going. And so that was interesting. Yeah. And then we talked to the only employee. We talked to Amber. And Steve, okay, so he goes, so Amber, I was talking to Kim and she told me you're one of the oldest employees here. And I'm like,
you're 98.
Couldn't we have said that differently? Because she's been there for 18 years. She's not old.
No, she's not old. She probably just started when she was very young.
Like in high school. And I'm like, couldn't he have said like you're the most senior employee here, or like the oldest employee? Come on. Or longest employed could have been a way to say that. Yeah. The dad is older than her.
Yeah, for sure. He's 64, I think.
So she's been working there for 18 years. Mm-hmm. And she probably just started in high school and never left. And
that was my first high school job, was at the movie theater. I loved it. I loved working at the movie theater.
My first job, I worked in a floral shop, and I would unpack the flowers as they came in, and then I would make very small arrangements. Mm-hmm. And that's what I learned. I don't like the smell of carnations because they smell like a pig to me.
A pig?
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes. If you take a carnation and I smell it, it smells like I'm on a farm and I'm in the pig house.
Really?
And I know that's not where you keep pigs, but I call it the pig house.
The pig house.
Pretty sure it's called a sty.
Oh,
pig
yeah.
Sty. That's where it comes from. Oh, it's all coming together. Your room is like a pig sty.
Oh, yeah.
Dirty.
Yeah.
It's dirty.
Yeah.
First of all, Mom, my room was never as dirty as a pig sty. So let's.
There wasn't food smeared all over the floor.
Except that one time.
It's just that one time.
And we cleaned it up.
Yeah.
So Amber is the one who was pinched She was downstairs in the concession stand and she felt a pinch on her arm and had 2 red marks on her arm. And I was like, well, were you boozing? Were you drugging?
Bills.
And Steve was like, did you feel like it was fingers? And she goes, yeah, it was like a person pinching. And Steve goes, wow.
Wow. Take a drink.
Take a drink of water.
At least every other wow should be
like,
water.
Yeah. Like,
or you're going to be in a lot of trouble.
The next day will be painful for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this one was kind of freaky to me. So they were starting up a movie and on screen there was like a silhouette of a man. And I'm like,
a silhouette of a man.
Scalla Moo, will you do the fandango?
It's going to be my turn to sing every 2 seconds.
I'm so proud of you.
I do it in my head all the time. I just don't usually voice it.
I do.
I just had an idea and I'm writing it down, but
I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. I'm going to share it with you.
Yay.
Now, people listening, don't get all excited if I don't actually do this because, this is a thing that I do is I come up with all these ideas and I don't do shit with it. But I was thinking it would be kind of fun to do a specific bingo card for every episode.
That would be fun.
And can release it with the show.
Yeah. Free space is Megan singing because that always happens.
Right. Yes.
That
and it would be
really
both
fun.
Stuff that we say and stuff that the show
says.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
So back to there's silhouette of a man, Scalla Moo. Amber said she could tell he was tall and thin and he had broad shoulders. And Steve said, well, could it have been somebody behind the curtain? And employee Amber says, no, I don't even think you can get behind the screen. The only way would be to stand in front of the window, and she's pointing to the projection booth.
Yeah, so in that back.
Yeah, so not actually the screen.
Right.
So Steve says, was anybody in the room with you? I will say it's interesting that he asked if there was something wrong with the film, and she said, no, we played a later showing of this movie, and when I turned it on for the next showing, it was fine.
Yeah.
And Steve goes, wow.
Wow.
Yeah. So really dropping the knowledge bombs on us there, Steve. He's really getting deep.
He's wowed.
He's wowed.
It's not his fault. He's just wowed. He has to express himself.
He does. You're right. I shouldn't take away. So then we're back to Amy, and she's in the theater, and she said, this is seriously the worst place to be. Living people up here would see a lot of shit. Shadow people, she said, you can see them in the seats swooping all over the place. And she said, it's like chaotic up here. The energy is anxious and angry, and she feels very sick. Mm-hmm. So that does not sound like a fun place to be.
No.
So now we're talking to Paul, Kimberly's father, and he's actually beginning to agree that whatever is there is targeting him. Mm-hmm. And he actually shares something interesting where he said, I feel like I'm sharing this building with a being that's not human. And then he said, I'm not sure that I'm the one that brought this here, or if there's just something about me that makes me vulnerable to these things. Mm-hmm. So, he's posing the question, like, did I bring this here?
Mm-hmm. And it's probably a little bit of both, honestly. Yeah. I mean, I know that, spoiler alert, he didn't bring it here.
He did,
but he's obviously he's got a little bit of abilities if he's able to see it,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then he does talk about that he had experiences before. When he was 16 to 23, he lived in a house in Kansas City, and it was really active. Mm-hmm. And so that's where he thinks that maybe it followed him. Mm-hmm. So I do feel bad for him. You can tell that he really feels bad. Like he's very much like, oh my God, I hope I didn't bring this. I hope I'm not causing this.
Yeah.
I hope it's not something I brought. So then, Steve asks what he's seen, and he's like, I've seen a young girl, or I heard a girl laughing. I looked up and down and all around, which sounds like a nursery rhyme. Mm-hmm. And anytime you hear children laughing and they're not around, that's creepy.
That is creepy.
That's creepy.
Because it might not actually be children. It might be kid ghosts, but it might also be people pretending to be kid ghosts, and that's super scary.
Most of the time it's probably people or things pretending to be children and not actually children.
Yeah.
And then he was walking towards the back of the theater, and he heard an extremely loud boom. And he describes it as somebody dropping a bowling ball on a wood floor from 25 to 30 feet. Mm-hmm. And Steve's like, that loud? And he goes, yeah.
Wow.
Wow. He didn't say
wow
that. We're just throwing that in there.
Yeah. I'm saying it.
We're saying it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Amy said it, and then I piggyback. Said
Yeah.
it. She said it.
I said
Amy
it.
said
I
it.
said it, and then you said it right after I said it.
So then we're back to Amy, and she's found this woman, all black. And Amy does a voiceover and says, I've never experienced anything like this. Every time I turn around, I see another dead person. And I'm like, I wonder, and we don't ever get an answer to this, but I wonder if this was built on like a burial ground or like some other sacred ground. Because to me, that's one of the few plausible reasons to have this many dead people here.
And she said they're all
built.
angry too, which that falls in line with what you're saying.
Yeah. And then she talks about how this woman has issues. And I'm like, okay, but like who doesn't?
Right.
Like, if you don't have issues, way to brag about it. Oh, you're normal? Wow.
Good.
So Paul had said things were getting more personal. And so he said about a year after I started working, he was doing some work behind the screen in the hallway. And he felt a fairly firm grip on his left shoulder. And then Steve goes, I really want to see where you got grabbed. Can you show me?
I'm surprised he didn't say, grab my shoulder and show me how it was.
Oh, that's
how strong
that's
it was.
hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ouch.
Wow.
You shouldn't have done it so hard. You hurt me.
Yeah. So he got grabbed, turned around. Nobody was there. And the area he was, nobody could fit there anyway. And he said it wasn't something that fell and bounced. It was a firm grip that as soon as they turn around, they released it. And then we go back to Amy and she's being punched. She said, it feels like I'm being punched. My heart is pounding. A male is dead and he doesn't feel good about being dead. He feels terrible, which understandable. Like, especially if he has some, unfinished business, as Casper taught us.
Diggin Tru the archives. Diggin Tru the archives.
So Matt asks if he has any interaction with the living, and Amy says, yeah, he jumps them. That's how he communicates. I think people would feel very drained by him. They wouldn't breathe well. They might even feel like they're having a heart attack. Heart attack. Although she did say it normally.
She did.
So now we're digging through the archives.
Diggin Tru, segment 2, Diggin Tru.
Diggin Tru the archives.
Segment 2, Diggin Tru. Bop-a-dee-doo. Sometimes you just got to make a sound.
Sometimes
and
you
just
do.
go with
I get it.
So the very first call Steve made paid off. He reached out to the local county sheriff and he tells Steve, not me. He didn't tell me. One of the very, if Steve told me anything, you would be the first to know. Very first manager of Kimberly's Theater was involved in a bizarre homicide. The story involved betrayal, revenge, and was finally settled with a bullet.
Settled with a bullet. That's a good title.
I can't say it the way that Steve said it.
Settled
it's
with
very
a bullet.
Brooklyn.
Yeah, I can't do it
it's very
either.
Brooklyn. A bullet. I don't know. I got nothing. So we meet Sheriff Wally George. And in 1932, a gentleman by the name of Frank Cellode was offered a promotion to manage what was then the Fox Theater. So he moved with his wife, Gladys, and their infant daughter to Marshall. We don't know where he moved from, but he moved there. So it was all going great until Gladys started having a little affair with a gentleman by the name of Estelle Turner. And I'm sorry, if you are having an affair with a married woman, you, sir, are no gentleman. He was 21 years old.
21. They didn't say how old Gladys was, but I got the impression, especially as we go on, that this was a pretty big age difference.
But I mean, if you look at her picture, which I know it's not much to look at, like, I don't mean that. Like,
it's hard to tell. Yeah. She does look like she's about
Thank
50.
you.
But if they just have an infant daughter, she can't be that old. I mean, she can't be super old. She could be 50, but I doubt it. But
yeah,
she's probably 30 something though.
Yeah, which still is a pretty big age
and he's
gap.
21.
He worked at the local shoe factory. Yeah. And so Frank finds out and he approaches, according to Frank, he approaches Estelle, the guy that his wife is having an affair with. Gross. Okay, you guys, just try to keep the vomit in your mouth because Frank says to Estelle, okay, look, like, God, if you really love her, I'll bow out and like you can have Gladys. I'll give her to you on one condition. And that is that you're going to have to marry her. And Estelle is like, God, geez, that's a big ask. oh, I don't want to do that. I don't want to carry the weight of breaking your family up. I'll just leave her alone. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, no, he just wanted to fuck someone and then go on he didn't want the burden of a family.
Right.
He just wanted to stick his dick in something and then leave.
That's right. Because we know that, let's say he were to take Frank up on that generous offer, he would be the father of that child because there's no way that Frank's taking that kid with him. I mean, nowadays a husband could likely do that. But back then, I doubt it. I doubt that ever happened.
No. Which, like, also is kind of an insult to the baby. Like, Frank's like, I'll just give you my wife and kid and I'll start a new slate out west. Like, what? You're just going to leave your child and wife?
I think he knew.
I'm sorry, not leave. Gift.
Gift. Back when you could just give your wife away and your child. Yeah. I think that Frank knew darn well that the kid wasn't going to accept the offer. Yeah. And he was just trying to scare him.
Yeah.
And he was like, making him see how stupid he was being.
Right. Oh, that's true. I didn't even think about that.
And being like, you're a big boy now. If you can fuck around with a older woman.
Estella's like, well, wait a minute. No.
Yep.
Hang on now. I didn't want a baby. So then about a month, after they have that talk, Frank and Gladys go out to the Elks Lodge where they're going to tear it up and go dancing.
That's right.
Estelle shows up and wouldn't you know it, he goes over and approaches Gladys and asks her for a dance. Mm-hmm. Which Steve is like, a lot of balls on this guy. Yep. And I'm like, that is true, Steve. Yeah. Yep. Like, can you imagine? So Frank goes to Estelle and yells, according to Frank, if you don't leave my wife alone, I'm going to kill you. And then Steve drops this word and he's like, I would have killed this guy a long time ago. And then Sheriff Wally goes, you and me both.
I know. I'm like, dudes. Really?
So, yeah.
You guys are lawmen and you think it's okay to murder somebody because he's stupping your wife?
Yeah. Also, it takes two to stup. So
That's right.
There's two people involved in this tango.
That's right.
So then Steve's like, what happens? Wally leaves the theater alone, but I think he meant to say the lodge.
Yeah, because the theater's across the street from the lodge.
Yeah.
I think he meant to say he left the lodge.
Yeah. So they get into an argument, Estelle and Frank. Frank gets angry enough that he pulls a .380 semi-automatic pistol from his pocket, and that's a hot gun, and fires a round into Estelle's chest. Mm-hmm. Which I don't know what a .380 semi-automatic pistol looks like, but I feel like that's probably big. I know.
I don't know.
Sure. So that feels big to me. Like, how are you just going to keep that in your pocket?
Yeah, maybe he's got a big long coat.
True. I don't know anything about guns except you point and shoot.
I don't either. I don't even know the difference between a pistol and a handgun. I know a shotgun, but I don't know the other ones.
I feel like there's a difference in how you load them and how they shoot. Like a revolver, you have to load and then you spin it. Pew! Oh, that's what it.
Sure,
I think
it's revolving.
I have no idea. Yeah.
No, that sounds right.
There it is. Uh-huh. There it is. Yep. Uh-huh. I don't know.
See, we can figure out shit on our own.
We didn't even need Google for that, right?
That's right.
Take that, Google, and AP's. I can feel her like.
She's like, oh my God, you guys really needed me on this one. Just to let you know, Amy is still with the show. She just doesn't want to record every week. We decided we're going to try to do every week instead of every other week. And so Megan and I, for at least until we can't handle it, we'll just record on the weeks that we are quote unquote off.
Because AP actually has a social life.
Yeah.
And neither Amy and I do.
Right.
So
we're always free to get together and do
We're always free.
Yeah.
Let's get okay. So he shoots him, boom, boom, right in the chest.
Yep.
10 minutes later, he dies. So he hung around for 10 minutes, which is like, yeesh. That's not good.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not good. I don't like that. So then gunshot wound at the hands of Frank Chillode is what was listed on the death certificate.
Yeah. Which I thought was odd. I've never seen the quote unquote killer's name on the death certificate because, I mean, obviously this death certificate came out right after he died, not after an investigation and a trial and all of that. So I thought that was really weird. I've never seen that before.
But Yeah. I don't know how that works.
Yeah, I mean, even if 10 people witnessed it, you still would have to
Innocent
say
until proven guilty.
alleged murder or
Yeah,
alleged
yeah.
killing, until it's proven in court.
Even if there's pineapple in her stomach, you still have to say alleged.
That's right.
Because we don't know.
We don't know.
So they arrest him. He's charged with murder. And then the very next day, the jury deliberated 7 hours and they find him not guilty. And Steve's like, you're kidding. Which, dude.
You just said you would have killed him a long time ago. And now you're saying that this guy shouldn't have gotten off?
Yeah. Pick a lane,
Yeah,
bro.
exactly.
So the way how he got off essentially was he claims self-defense, and the sheriff says there's pretty much an unwritten law to where if something or somebody threatens your family, you have the right to defend your family. But my question is, how is that a threat to your family?
Exactly. That's what I thought too. This whole story stinks.
Like, if somebody was breaking into your house, then yeah, that would be a threat to your family.
Yeah.
Some guy's doing your wife, that's not a threat to your family. That's a threat to your fucking ego.
Yeah.
Is what that's a threat to.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I can see how you could say a threat to the family group.
Unit.
Yeah, the family could break up. But at the same time, you suggested that the family break up, Mr. Frank.
Yeah.
But also, but self-defense isn't you're going to break up my family. It's you're going to murder me. So you don't get to claim self-defense because someone's going to break up your family.
Right. That's some
ridiculous.
white privilege bullshit is what this is, in my opinion. I guarantee you if Frank had been black and Estelle had been white, it would not have played out that way.
We have a picture of Estelle, but I couldn't really tell you his ethnicity, but what's his last name? I feel like he
Turner.
doesn't have a super white. Oh, maybe he was just plain old white then.
He
like
was
Frank.
white, I believe.
Yeah.
It looks
I mean,
like
he didn't look, he certainly wasn't black, but I thought maybe he was like Hispanic or something. Anyway.
So now we're back to Amy, and she's talking about the guy who jumps people. Somebody hated him a lot. They hated him, and he finally killed him. And I'm like, that's for sure Estelle, because Frank hated him. Frank killed him. And then she goes on to say, the pain I'm feeling is in my upper chest, but it goes out my back. And she said, I want to say he was shot. And then she's hearing a woman screaming and falling down. And she said, he can't move on because it's like a pride thing. And I did not understand that. Like, sticking around is a pride thing?
I
don't
so.
understand.
I think he feels like he has to stick around. But at this point, I wasn't even sure which one of these people Amy's seeing. If it's the...
Oh, see, I thought
if it was
for
Frank
sure
or
it was Estelle.
But I think it's Estelle.
I thought it was for sure Estelle.
Yeah.
So now we're talking to Chief Mike Donnell, who's a police chief and a former employee of the movie theater. And he actually worked there for 6 years. So, he said it was always kind of eerie, because Steve asked if you had experiences. He said it was eerie. If you're the last person closing up, you don't want to be there alone, which to me wasn't an experience. That's just like you're being alone in a huge place at night.
Yeah. I would be scared anywhere, even if I didn't have any experiences there. Yeah. I would make them up in my head probably. Yeah. And then be scared about that.
Like when I had sleepovers at church when I was growing up, I was scared in the church, but it's like it's a church,
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was like the sanctuary when that's huge and dark. Your mind goes wild.
Yep.
Or mine did, at least.
We used to do that too. We used to have sleepovers at our church. And
They
we had
call
a
them
beautiful
lockdowns.
old church in downtown Minneapolis.
Yes.
I love this church. I still do. It's beautiful.
Is that the one where the farmer's market is? It's like the Catholic church?
No. No.
Okay.
I didn't grow up Catholic. I grew up barely Christian.
Barely.
Very,
anything.
very liberal, non-conservative type church. Our minister was gay and everything. But anyway,
nice.
Yeah, it was a beautiful, beautiful place. But we slept there and it was spooky.
Eerie.
Real spooky.
So we've got another shooting involved James Ming. He managed a hotel that was right across the street from the theater. So then we're learning about James Ming. It looked like he killed somebody that worked for him. And so Ming took over management of the Ming House Hotel in 1872. So it's a very old story. Then we've got Steve. Okay, Steve, where he goes, now, is Ming a Chinese guy or a white guy? And I'm like, we couldn't have could have asked that differently. Could have said, is Ming, is he of Asian descent, or do we know his ethnicity, or literally anything else other than, is he Chinese? Because clearly that's the only other Asian race is Chinese. And
right.
I'm like, oh God, Steve. So no, he was white. December 22nd of 1898, Ming asked his porter, Emmett Craddock, to come to his room. Now, Ming is in his 50s. Craddock is a 27-year-old black male. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I can see where this is going. Yep. You don't even need to tell me.
That's right.
So he's working for him, but he's not there. He's out running an errand for the hotel. So it's not like he's like, I'm going to go
he's not
my
just
wife
sticking around. Yeah.
For break, and then I'll be back.
Yeah.
Well, by the time he gets back, James Ming is outraged. He's screaming racial slurs at him, telling him to get out of the hotel, pretty much firing him. And Craddock is like, if you give me the money I earned today, I'll leave. Mm-hmm. But I'm not leaving until I get paid, which, yeah. So
he probably has had instances before where he wasn't paid, or at least wasn't paid in a timely fashion, and figured, if this guy's this mad at me right now, I'll never see it.
Yeah. So Ming's upset that he has a porter that's talking to him and addressing him in a way that he shouldn't, since he's the manager. Mm-hmm. And my thought is he's probably mad because he was a black man speaking that way to a quote unquote white person, speaking out of, above his station. Gross. So then Ming shoots the black man Craddock in the head with a .32 caliber Smith & Wesson revolver, which from our previous discussion 5 minutes ago, we know is the spinny one.
Right.
So yeah, he just shoots him. So Steve is like, I'm assuming he got charged with this crime, which is a bold assumption to make in the 1800s when you shoot a black man. Mm-hmm. He got charged, but he was deemed legally insane, so he was never tried for the crime, which to me, how are you deemed legally insane? He was high on opiates at the time. Mm-hmm. So I forgot to say that. So he's high on opiates beyond reasoning and deemed insane? No.
Yeah.
You're just
odd.
high on drugs.
Yeah.
And you made a boo-boo mistake. And now because So they sent him to an asylum in Nevada, Missouri, not the state, Nevada, Missouri, 50 miles from here. After 3 months of being in the asylum, he escapes. When they caught him, they wanted him to pack up and come with him. So they were like, oh my God, James, you silly goose, you got out.
Yeah.
Can you go in the back room, get your stuff? We'll take you back to the asylum where you belong, mister. And he shoots himself in the head.
Yeah. So
I'm like, why wouldn't you have just arrested him? He literally shot someone in the head. Mm-hmm. And you're like, oh my God, we don't want to inconvenience you. Is this a bad time?
We can come back later.
Go get your stuff. Like, we don't want you to forget your jammies. We know how much you love those.
Maybe I don't know. I mean, maybe it's one of those things where like he's a delicate flower because he's mentally unstable. So we don't want him shooting anyone else. They probably didn't think he was going to shoot himself. I don't know.
I mean, that's very nice of you to give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe that's the case, but I just think it was hugely racially motivated.
Probably he got some. Yeah. If it was the other way around, if that was Emmett, he probably wouldn't have been given that.
If it was the other way around, he probably wouldn't have been given he wouldn't have been put in an asylum. He would have been put in jail.
Right.
Or death penalty.
Yeah.
So we're back to Amy, and she found a male, and he's telling her to fuck off and get out of here and leave him alone. He just wants to be alone. She says he's between like 1870 and 1910. She said he was a big drinker. He's just wasted, like stumbling around drunk. Mm-hmm. And she said, oh, he's horrible and he gets all the blame and he's the one to blame. He's tired of it. He feels guilty. And she said he's showing her like bodies after bodies and says, look what the mess I made. Mm-hmm. To where I wonder, could that be, I think it's James Ming, mm-hmm. and maybe he was actually a serial killer, mm-hmm. and he killed more people than Emmett, and he's just showing her.
Mm-hmm. That could be. Yeah. Or he could just be one of those people that is truly, mentally ill and kills people every time he's mad at them.
Mm-hmm. Or he was high on opiates and thought he killed all these people.
Yeah.
And it was a hallucination.
Yep.
I don't know how opiates
That
work.
could be.
I've never been on one.
I don't either, but I mean, drugs do some weird shit to
They do.
people's brains.
They do weird shit to people's
sure.
brain. Then the next crime is Nellie Pierce. She was 42 years old. She was a spinster, the worst kind of woman. And so in April of 1937, she left work and was going to a local nightclub to meet a date named Joe Smiley. She was walking in front of a car dealership and she was never seen alive again. She vanished for 17 days. People, it was a small town. Everybody ran to look for her. And then 17 days later, her body washed up on the shore. She was found by a fisherman. Her arms and legs were bound, and she'd been weighted down with window weights and a steel rod.
Paused and read that article. I just want to note that what they didn't say in the show, but was in the article, was that she had a hole in her skull that they thought was a gunshot.
Oh. Well, that's interesting because the cause of death says strangulation and murder. So
It could be that she was shot and then, or strangled, and then thrown in the water, hit her head on a rock. Maybe that's where the hole came from.
Yeah.
Because they just said that it looked like, or they thought that it could be a gunshot. More investigation was necessary. So it's possible it was not a gunshot, but that's what their original thought was.
Yeah. They checked Joe Smiley. He had an alibi, and it's never been solved to this day. It's never been solved. Then we go back to Amy. She's talking to the lady in black. She said she's saying that she's old. She went missing. And then she said the woman was very sad and something about falling down. And then she kind of fades away. And that's the end of Amy talking about that woman. So then we go to the sketch, and the person that she is sketching is the dead man who can jump the living, because that's who concerns her the most. So they draw him, and then Amy is, that's what you saw? Yes. And I'm like, oh, so season 5 is when we start getting
Yes.
robotic. Yes.
I noted that I liked Amy's glasses in the
they
sketch
were
scene. They were
very
super cute.
cute.
Looked really cute on her.
We
She looked
don't
really
see her
cute.
wearing glasses
totally
a
in
lot.
this one.
Oh my God, when she has a little hat on, she is adorable. Like a little winter hat.
Yeah.
Oh, she's so cute.
She is very cute.
Amy, we love you. So we go back to we're at the reveal. And so it's Karen. Who's Karen? Kimberly. I don't know who Karen is. Kimberly and her father, Paul, are the ones at the reveal. So the first thing that she says is she feels like anybody who's dead in this town, she felt like she met them. And then the first person she talks about is Nellie. She said that she was so old. And Amy's like, well, how old is old? And she goes, 40. And I'm like, okay, Nellie.
40. I must be dead.
And no children.
I know.
At
At least I'm married.
That's the only thing you've
It's the only reason I'm still alive.
Thank God you have Greg to think for you.
That's right.
So she said that she had gone missing, and she wears a long lace dress and it's all wet. And so she said she's had a fight with somebody, and she said that the guy that she had a fight with, his name was Joe. And Steve's face when she said
He's
that
just
was like,
this is back when he was still in awe of her.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then Steve's like, well, that reminds me of this person. I got a pretty good idea what you're talking about. And then he tells about Kimberly. And he goes, well,
You mean
do you
Nellie.
think... Oh, God, Nellie. I just
Kimberly's
read
the client.
Kimberly.
Yeah.
And so he goes, I got a cause of death right here, strangulation. And now it's Amy's turn to go, wow. Yeah. And then Steve goes, do you think that this could be the girl you're talking about? And I'm like, Steven,
Of course.
literally, yes. There's nobody else it could be.
Yeah.
His name is Joe. Like, come on. And then Kimberly's like, I feel so heartbroken for her. And I'm like, oh, Kimberly.
Yeah.
Like, she's just so empathetic.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Too sweet.
So then Amy talks about she sees a lot of commotion in the actual theater, a lot of shadow people. You can see them in the seats sweeping all over the place.
I love that picture, that visual of a dark theater and just these shadow people swirling all around it. It's so cool.
And then
I don't want to see it in real life, but it's
no,
cool.
I don't want to see it. And then Kimberly talks about how she saw the shadow figure and the person in the screen when you turned it on. And then Amy said, wow, She goes to the hallway leading to the basement, and she said that she saw a dead guy on the floor and he's stuck in his death state. And what I was able to get from him was there was a woman screaming, and there was another male who absolutely hated him and was out for him, like this man felt hunted. And then she said, what I felt on the left side, she felt an impact on the left side in her heart exiting out the back, and I thought he was shot. And then Steve goes, wow.
Wow. I want to note when Amy's talking about this, she's saying that the person who was shot has been hunted by somebody else, which sounds to me, if that's Estelle, that means Frank was hunting Estelle, which means Frank was the one threatening Estelle, not Estelle threatening Frank and his family.
Which tracks. I mean, Frank's the survivor. He's the winner. The winners write history.
That's right.
So, you know, he's not going to say, well, he was doing nothing. I just shot him.
Right.
You know?
He's Yep.
And then Steve goes, no, a lot of the stuff that she's talking about reminds me of a deadly love triangle. And then he talks about Gladys and everybody. And so they asked, Steve's like, well, do you guys know about this? And Paul's like, I've been here 40 years and I've never heard of it. And Steve said, do you think this guy Estelle is who you saw? And she said, I mean, there's a lot of correlations, which to me means no, because she will, when you look at Amy and Steve presents something to her and is like, do you think, like with Nellie, she was like, yeah, that's for sure Nellie.
Yeah.
I don't think she thinks it's Estelle.
Really?
Because she said there's a lot of correlations. Usually she'll be like, yes, I can see, or yeah, that's him for sure. So to me, that just means that.
Or she's not sure.
She's not sure.
She's not sold on it.
Yeah. So then she starts talking about the guy who jumps people, and she has a sketch drawn of it, and it really is like it's like a man coming up behind Paul, and like it looks like he's trying to give him a hug.
Yeah.
But he's actually like trying to claw his chest open.
Yeah.
So it was a very scary
It's
picture.
a creepy picture. It's really good art though. Really well done.
Yeah. It was very well done.
Yeah.
So then, we're done with that. And then, Steve is like, well, can you stay here with your family or do you have to leave? And Amy turns it over and he's like, I'm going to turn it over to Amy. And so Amy's like, we got to get rid of the dead.
Get that too far.
Oh,
I just want to know, Steve did ask Amy if she believed that Paul brought this, whatever this entity was.
Thank you.
And because Paul was real worried with that it was his fault. And she said no.
Yeah.
He didn't.
Thank you. I skipped that.
Yeah.
Yes. So, and I mean, they're just both like so sweet, Kimberly and Paul. They were just like, oh. And Paul even said, I feel like I had some ability to be a magnet for bad things. So thank you. And I'm like, oh, Paul, I just want to give him a hug.
I know.
So to take care of Nellie, that's the first thing that they have to deal with is they want a female medium to come in and just listen to her. I mean, and really that's what she wants, is to be heard. And she said as soon as, Nellie has been heard and she's ready to move on, the female medium should make a statement and basically say anybody else who wants to go with Nellie can go. And she said, and Amy said that a lot of the dead will then go with Amy. So I'm sorry, we'll go with Nellie, not Amy. I'm just all messed up with the names. So then moving on to the guy who jumps people, they want to bring in a priest. She wants him to come 3 times over 3 months to do a blessing of the building. And she also wants him to read the spirit his last rites. And Paul is like, really? And I'm like, oh, that's, because if you're very faith-based and you didn't get that. So, and then Amy said, and when he leaves, the shadow people will leave. So basically doing these 2 things that were aired, there could be more.
Sure.
2 things will clear everything up. Okay. So then they're like, okay, so you going to do this? Are you going to do what they said? And Paul says, I'm definitely taking Amy's advice. And then we get the on-screen text.
Yeah, the final screens.
And Kim is convinced the spirit's left with Amy. She has no plans to contact a priest or a medium.
Yep. I know.
Kimberly.
I did a head desk on that one.
So
I would love to talk to them and find out if this is real, if this worked. It's possible the ghost went with Amy. It's possible. But I don't know. I would think Amy would have known that, and she would have said, you don't have to do anything. I took him. She's done that before.
Yeah.
I'm just going to take him home with me, and I'll take care of it.
Yeah.
She's done that before.
Yeah. And I would think she puts up some sort of ground rules that they can't follow her home. Because if she didn't, I'm sure every single spirit would follow her home.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you had me until the end, guys. And then that.
I still like them, but I really wish they had done what Amy said.
Yeah. Especially because Paul seemed to want to.
Yeah.
It's interesting that Kimberly didn't say that. Kimberly wasn't like, yeah, I'm going to do it. Paul was like, no, I really want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And then they didn't. Maybe the activity stopped and that's why they thought.
That's what I'm thinking is that it stopped. But did it stop forever or just until they wrote the end cards for this episode? Who knows if it stayed away for a month or 6 months or
forever.
Yeah.
I mean, it was 10 years ago now.
Yeah.
So.
That's why I'd like to talk to them now.
Yeah.
I'd like to find out.
But it was good.
It was a good episode. Yep. It was a real good episode.
It was very nice. They weren't argumentative. They weren't like the one last week.
Oh,
Mark.
God.
I don't want a psychiatrist.
I'm going to force them to leave. Oh, you are? Okay, how'd that work up until now? You butthead. I did not like him.
So anyways. That was a good episode.
Yes, it was. Thanks for joining us, everybody, for another recap.
Thank you.
And next week, we will be doing one that is AP's suggestion. And I didn't ask her ahead of time what she wanted to do. So I don't know what that is, but I will certainly let you guys know. You'll know before it comes out, at least.
Yeah.
But yeah, so thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you for listening to the Activity Continues podcast. We really appreciate you giving us your ears for a bit. Please feel free to drop us a note and say hi. And join us next time when the activity continues.
Nailed it.
The Activity Continues is produced by me, Amy, at Collected Sounds Media, and is part of the independent Collected Sounds podcast network.